Hello, and welcome to the January 2026 Artist Demonstration brought to you by the Society of West Coast Artists. We do this as part of our outreach program. Since we are a nonprofit, this is one of the ways that we maintain our nonprofit status. So today we are honored to have as our artist Rafael DeSoto. And he is going to be doing a rustic still life in watercolor from a photograph, okay? So he will reveal how to paint old wood and rusty metal objects effectively and explain his process from initial inspiration to composition and rendering techniques. He will also discuss when to use masking, how to build upon underpainting, and how to achieve texture and apply shadow. Rafael DeSoto Jr. is a lifelong artist who has been painting for over 40 years. He conducts art classes around the San Francisco Bay Area and also holds private lessons in his San Carlos studio. He is a member of Santa Clara Valley Watercolor Society, the Pacific Art League, and the Society of West Coast Artists. He exhibits locally and nationally and has received numerous awards. His students, he teaches his students to paint confidently and discover how to keep creatively engaged. You can view his work on his website at www.rafaeldesoto.com. So without further ado, I'm going to be turning it over to Rafael.
Hi, folks. Jim, I want to thank you again for re-inviting. Thank Society of West Coast Artists for re-inviting me again. And I got a lucky strike because we did this in November, mid-November, on the 15th, and we had a little technical difficulties with the recording. So I get to do it again, but I'm going to do a different piece this time. So thank you. And this time I'm here live at the Society of West Coast Artists in San Bruno. And it's a lovely day outside. So those of you who are inside or, are outside enjoying yourself, this is going to be recorded so you can look at it later. Anyway, now that I'm here, we have like multiple cameras and I could do a little slideshow. So let me introduce what I'm going to do today. This is going to be the subject matter. This is the photograph that I've cropped, and I figured this would work. I can get this done, in a couple of hours, I hope. And I chose this because I wanted to really emphasize the shadows and wood and rust and how I accomplished that. As a matter of fact, I did one. Jim, if you want to go to this camera here, here's what I did last night just to make sure that I could pull it off in an amount of time. And so there it is. And I've made what I did was I masked out the area. I'll talk about that. Let me show you some previous work that I've done. And there we go. This one's the last time I was here. This is the demo that I did. This is the painting. And I think it turned out really well. It has a lot of the colors. It got that wood and the rust down. And so I just thought I'd show you, the result and show you some other work that I've done over the years. This one is in Pacific Grove at a gallery, Lighthouse Gallery right now in Pacific Grove. It's a half a sheet, and it's called Latches and Shadows. Photograph taken by a friend in New York who knows I love this old stuff. So I took his photo, but rearranged it compositionally. And what I really like are the shadows and the textures. As you can see, here's another one. And the old wood is, pink. It was painted pink and blue. And with the rust, I just love these colors. So whenever I see something I really like, I try to capture it in my own way. And So I just thought I'd show you a few. This one is one of my favorites. It won an award over at the Santa Clara Valley Watercolor Society a number of years ago. And I took a photograph of when I was at an artist house visiting, and I love old latches. You know, what can I say? I think that this kind of subject matter, the ordinary, the mundane, the things that you really wouldn't take notice of very much, I want to emphasize and make you look, so to speak. Kind of like what Georgia O'Keeffe was doing with her, flowers and things, where it's not just an ordinary flower. Look, so it's not just an ordinary wood and rust. Well, it is ordinary, but I try to make it a little my own vision of extraordinary. Oops. Um, so, I have a lot of these, and I'm going to have a show. I don't have it announced yet, but this is going to be hopefully this year. And the show is going to be called Corrosion of Interest. And obviously, it's about a lot of rust and wood and old weathered stuff that is of interest. That's all corroded. Um, Sometimes you don't have to do a still life. You could just see a subject. This happens to be on on your way out at let's see, San Gregorio's store. Right across the street. There's an old dilapidated building, and this is it. And I got lucky. It was light, and I really like the way it turned out. This is some corrugated metal that I found the shadows just intrigued me a great deal, so I made a painting of it. Um, this one is I call it olden in a way. It's basically an old dilapidated uh, gate post out in Half Moon Bay. And the most challenging thing about this was getting the graffiti to look like it's, graffiti. And what you have to actually do is paint it like graffiti, go quick and hopefully it'll turn out. Um, this is my first painting of the year, or actually maybe last year, last painting of 25. And it's a portrait of a stump. And we have, anyway, it's been great. The weather's been beautiful out after rain. And so I'm trying to capture some of that moss, that green moss and the wood texture. It's just an old stump, but I like it. Here's another one. This is from our friend's ranch, and it is a gutter that's been patched together with, I don't know what, duct tape. So I call it there. I fixed it. Simple. Um, this is an old Ford truck that I just happen to like the rust on it and the composition. It's rather small, but I sometimes the small ones are even better. And so I'm showing just a variety of the still lifes that I do. This is just simply some red peppers on a blue plate. That's all. And just to show you the variety here, this is called Reservoir. And basically, it's an old stump that has a hole in it, and it's reflecting the forest around it. And I thought it was so interesting because there were bugs in the water that diffracted. I don't know if you could see that, but you see, there's bugs, and it made the water change and diffract. You know how they could sit on top of the water? So you can't see the bugs, but they're distorting the reflection enough so that it makes an interesting thing. I can't, anyway. And that's about it. This is what we're going to paint. So I'll leave this up. And the only other announcement I want to make is that I'm having a couple of upcoming classes in February at the University Art in Redwood City. We don't have a lot of art stores around here, unfortunately, but the university art has been around for decades in Palo Alto. They moved to Redwood City about 10 years ago, and they have a terrific classroom. So check it out. This is going to be Saturday and Sunday, February 14th and 15th, and it's painting winter landscapes. Okay. And then the following week, I'm going to do another workshop for painting painting rustic still life in watercolor, and that'll be Saturday and Sunday, the 21st and 22nd. Information is on my website, rafaeldesotojr.com. My father is an artist. I have a distinct advantage of growing up in a creative household, creative environment, and so he's had his career. He passed away in the early 90s, but to distinguish us from each other, I put the junior down, and I'm very proud to be, carrying on the tradition. Okay, let's get started. Like I said, I tested this out last night and did a little painting, and we're going to compare each of them today. Hopefully, I can even improve this. But to save a little time, what I did, can you see all that there? This is going to be hard to see, but what I usually do is I'll just take the reference and rough it out. Like I want this to be here, I want this to be here. In this particular instance, I ended up using a straight edge because it's really hard, even if after all these years of work of doing it, to just draw a straight line. And I don't know, I had the graphic design background for 40 years, so I'm kind of bring out the tools, get it right. And I use a lot of the tricks for illustration that I've learned in the commercial art world that's really beneficial when you're doing some fine art too. So we pre-did this, and I made the outline, and instead of using, I was going to go use some masking fluid, which is I like using, but instead I decided to use some masking tape, not ordinary masking tape. This is repositionable, especially for watercolors. So if you're going to use masking tape, don't just buy, the regular one in a store. You get the good stuff, because you can be able to mask out and cut with an X-Acto blade exactly where you want the mask. And if you have straight lines like this is, make sure I got everything. Here's straight lines already there. It's the tape, and you just trim it off with an X-Acto blade. It has to be a brand new one. You can't use a dull blade because you just want to go through the tape and not really get into the paper too much for obvious reasons. In this one, I left out the nail. I don't know. I just got into it, and it's like, oh, it's an extra thing to do. I also did not finish some of the, the bolts over here. But today we're going to do it all, and we're going to put the bolts in and everything else. And I masked the nail out this time using masking fluid for that. This little, it's sometimes easier to paint it than to try and cut everything with a frisket. Okay, so I have it all masked out. And the only thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some lines in here for the wood pattern, just so I remember. There's kind of one coming. And this, I don't need a straight edge to do this. I'm just kind of going to rough it in here. Let's say this goes here, all the way through. There's the nail. And here's that knot. I don't really have to paint that. And that's it. We're done with this part. So let's get into it. The first thing we're going to do here is totally soak it. We're going to go make some big underpainting washes. So I'm going to use like a good, I think there's a 2-inch big wide brush here and just give it a good soaking, evenly across everything. So we have so the paper, the water gets soaked into the paper. This is why I like watercolor. And you get some nice smooth, oops, piece of paint there. That doesn't matter. We're going to go right over it. And the trick is to do it evenly. And since you can't really see, we're not painting anything. I often tell students we've got to hold it up to the whatever light you're using and just make sure you cover everything evenly. All right. So now, while this is soaking in, I'm going to mix my paint because it needs to soak into the fibers of the paper. And what I'm going to do, well, let me see. I'm just going to mix some paint here. I'm going to use a whole bunch of cerulean blue. You wouldn't think that would be good for wood, but it is. And I'm going to be just a touch of green gold. Uh, there we go. There's that nice. And so I'm going to go in really rough here, And I'm also going to take just because the colors are so bright, I'm going to just take a little bit of lunar black, it's called. And sometimes you put it on your brush, you have too much. So I recommend kind of dipping it in here and then, dipping it. As we need. All right. So now that I got that mixed up, um, let's just give it a nice follow through. You also have to paint darker than it appears because watercolors just end up being much lighter when they dry. And that's probably too light, but this is the underpainting, so I don't want to get it too dark too soon. Um, but you see how nice and even it flows. You know what? Also, the reason I like making this wooden stuff is because it's very forgiving, you know. Oops, there's a streak. Well, that's part of the wood pattern now. Um, so let me just get my underpainting done really quickly. There we go. I'm going to darken this side up just a little bit. You want to be able to, I want to be able to have enough paint. And I fall into this problem too. I don't mix enough paint. So now I got to go back and mix that same color again. Luckily, it won't be too hard. But you want to mix more paint than you actually need or you think you need. And this is the reason for that is so you don't have to go back again and redo it. I'm going to add a little bit of brown to it this time. I do need it darker, but I really like these streaks that are coming out. I think I'll enhance that a little bit. And just a tiny bit more blue on this side. See, well, it's still wet. It's nice. It makes it okay, Jim. What I'm going to do now is dry it. So, can you mute the mic, my mic, or should I? You can mute it? Okay. Sorry, I'm talking and you can't hear me because my mic is off. Okay. Okay. Um, it's not totally dry, but it's dry enough that I can go now and start putting some texture in the wood grain here. You know what? I just got to do a little bit more. Usually, so it's not totally dry, but it's not shiny. So it's kind of getting into the fibers of the paper at this point. I'm going to do this texture with a fan brush. There's a lot of different kinds of fan brushes. Um, this one is deceivingly good. This is made with some kind of animal hair. I am not sure, maybe squirrel or something, but it has an unusual. Some of the ones that you have that are uh, fan brushes that are synthetic, they're very even. So you get it wet and you have an even amount, which is okay in some instances, but I don't want it even. I want it to be um, mix some paint. I want it to be an example. You have to test it out. See that kind of thing where it's not even. Moment of truth. We're going to put some of this on here now, and let's just make one big streak down. Whoa! See how it's still very wet. And okay, I'm going to go for it anyway. Oh, that's kind of nice. I like that. Um, add a little bit of warmth to it. Let's just go up here. So I'm not sure if you're aware, the reason that I am masking it out is because I want to make strokes and go right through the wood grain. It looks much more believable if you follow through, right? And you have, your strokes follow through. So you go right through the wood and it's like, oh, I get it. That's pretty cool. I can see that it's wood. Okay. I highly recommend having a little practice uh, pad here because it's really hard to get this right. It's kind of zen. It's either going to work or it isn't. So let's just give it a try. Whoop. And sometimes if it's too dark, you can take it up because it's still wet and I can see. There we go. This is going to be a process where we're going to do a lot of back and forth. Um, and often, sometimes it's easier to turn it, because I can make it, my lines. I have a lot more control this way than if I tried to do it vertically. Um, so let's try it again. I'm going to add a little more blue to this. I'm using cerulean blue. The only colors I've used so far are cerulean blue and this green gold and some uh, black, but very sparingly, called lunar black. I like lunar black because when it dries, it has a very, what do you call it? Chalky. It has, when it dries, it's really cool looking. That's not, it's not a technical term, chalky, but That's what I'm using. Oops. Okay, that's so far so good. And so I'm going to dry it again. Jim, want to mute my mouth? Jim just reminded me I keep talking when the hair dryer is on. It's like I do this anyway in my studio. I talk to myself, so nothing's nothing new here, huh? Okay, so let's see where we are. It's still kind of wet over there. Um, I got to get all these textures down, finalized, and the shadows before I start doing, the main subject. Um, so that's why this takes so long. So I've got,
Say something about your paper.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't talk about the paper. Yeah. Um, I end up lifting it up. You see this little, thing, because I want a couple of inches to, to use gravity. So if it's just flat and you're doing a wash, it'll pool up on you because, it's flat. And this helps the water go down so you can control it a little more. The paper I'm using today is called Lana paper. Um, I don't see this around a lot. I inherited this from a friend who passed on, and she's got a lot of unusual watercolor papers. I think she went to Europe and even got some of these anyway. Um, this is 10 by 14. It's a size I work in frequently. I really like it because it's not big, it's small, but it's not so small, that it can't control these. So, I'm sorry. Yes, 140 pound. It's a block. A lot of my stuff is on blocks because I'm lazy and I don't want to. I mean, I could tape it off and do all that, but I like blocks. It keeps it from, sometimes from uh, warping too, a little bit. Okay, so that's the paper, and I put it up here. I didn't talk about my palette, but it's pretty. Uh, here's the earth colors over here, which is yellow ochre, the ochres, the siennas, and whatnot, and up here are more of the. I keep the opaque colors, Naples yellow, which has a lot of white in it, and these other two. So that's that row. Here's primary yellow, cadmium yellow, cadmium red. Um, a really important color I use all the time, alizarin crimson, uh, then a deep violet. A couple of violets are really hard to get, and I'm not going to use any, but it's really hard to mix a correct one. So I use them. And one of my favorite blues is Prussian blue. It just plays well with others. Cerulean blue, nice for this. The three blues are Prussian, cerulean blue, and cobalt blue. Just my three favorites. And then these are ancillary colors here, which include that green gold and that bright magenta, stuff that you just normally wouldn't. It'd be hard to mix. Um, Aqua, when you're using an ocean, you can't really get that. You got to have the aqua paint. Okay, so I hope that explains it. I'm right-handed, so my palette's over here, my water. This is a handy little thing. What this is a toilet paper, uh, you know, toilet paper that roll up. And after a while, you could just peel them off. I put a paper towel over it And this becomes a terrific blotter, so often you have too much water on your brush, you could just blot it here. Um, and my handy, test piece. It's really important to have. Now that I have that, I can see I'm going to add a little bit of blue to it. Okay, let's get on some paint here. Okay, I'm going to turn it so I have more control and gulp the moment of truth. This is always scary because it's, you put a stroke on and that's it. You're committed. So let's give it a try. Hey, that looks like wood grain. See, this brush has different, um, let's try another one here. There we go. Sometimes it gets a little dark. Um, so while it's wet, to enhance the texture, I might go and scrape some of it off just to show you that'll work sometimes. Sometimes. A lot of this painting is just hit and miss. It's either going to work or it doesn't. And I guess that's why I like doing watercolors. It's like, man, when it comes out, it's like, how did I do that? That's what's fun about it. Okay, let's get some more grain. We're not going to put too much more, but just a few strokes here. And when they're uneven, they're very believable. Okay, almost done with this part of the demo. Um, so I'm going to hit it again because I'm going to do some more dry brush and it needs to be dry paper. Um, okay. Okay, so now I'm going to do something really scary. I'm going to try to put on, this knot in the wood. And I'm going to test it out here a little bit. Here goes. That's it. So if you're doing this, um, just kind of don't do it once and step back. Don't keep trying to mess with it like I'm going to do now. Basically, I can come back in here and enhance it. I just want to. Oh, okay. I'm not mixing any new paint. This is just I'm using the dirty palette because I want to be careful here because um, I have this line, but it's very, it needs to be darker. Another pass. I'll wait until it's dry so we can enhance that a little bit. All right. When it's dry like this, then we start getting the texture, really getting the texture going. All right, I think this is a good place to kind of reflect. And what I'm going to do next is there's some in the wood here, we have some separation, what am I saying? The slats between the wood. They're super dark. So I'm going to put those on right now. And you think black would be the way to go, but no. I'm going to use Prussian blue and alizarin crimson mixed together. And that gives me a better black than if I just use the black paint. If I want it warmer, I put a little more crimson. And if I want it a cooler shadow, dark, I use a little more Prussian blue. And because it has a lot of chroma, I'm going to add Payne's gray in here. I suppose I could just use Payne's gray, but honestly, when you mix it this way, it's a much better effect. So now I'm going to put in, some of these streaks, and I don't, I'm just, let's put one here. Let me see, where do we got it? I can't go exactly the way the reference is, so I'm gonna do my own. I'm just going to come in here. There we go. Let's put another one. Where this goes, right about here. I'm painting right through the mask, putting the mask on. That's important because you want to make sure they line up. That's the reason for using the mask. Let's see what else. I'm just going to enhance this a little bit more. Put my eyes on. There we go. Ooh, that's getting to look nice. Why I like doing old wood? Because, you can make mistakes and you go, oh, well, that's part of the grain, It's easy. And I'm spacing them out so it looks kind of believable too, where, oh, I see, there's a panel of wood panels. Okay, there we go. So you notice there's some really dark ones up here. And I'm going to do them with a thinner brush. I really like these, I call them brushes that have a lot of hair on them. They're long. Some people get these nice, they're little tiny brushes, which are great, but they don't hold enough paint. This way I can make a line and I won't run out of paint as I'm using it. Let's see. So let's make another thin one here. Uh, and the other thing is you really you want to make it uneven. You don't want the same. It's wood. It's all wood. So I'm just gonna. There we go. And this is the one that it needs help. All right. A few more strokes and we'll be ready for the next step. Oh, turned out to be lighter. You probably can't see this in the video, but I'm trying to darken up some of the areas here. All right. Okay. One other thing that's I find helpful um, before I'm just going to put I don't know how this is going to work, but a couple of these, um, if you just put in the dots by hand, it, here's the thing. If you want it to look um, natural, don't force it. Just kind of, I need a lot more paint. Here we go. Ah, too many, way too many. It's wet, so I can do that. Now I'm making a real mess. Now it's getting to be fun. Okay. Just going to get a few of these. Okay, so now uh, I'm going to dry it again. This paper is great for called lifting. So if I just put some water over here, I'm going to wet that, let it soak in, and try and scrape it lighter. Uh, you got to wait a few seconds because if you go right in, the water is just sitting right on top of the paper, and you're not moving it. It has to get into the fibers of the paper a little bit, and then you have to kind of go. Here we go. Okay. I don't know if I fixed it or not, but I like it better. And you could do that with up here too. Um, just let me put some water down. And it's hit and miss. Sometimes it's where if you can't see it on video, but it's when it's really shiny, it hasn't soaked into the paper, so it's not time to do the little thing. Sometimes these brushes have a little cut out, I don't know what you call it, but I think it's for this purpose. So let's try the brush thing. There we go. It's not really working the same. I think this is better. Yeah. See, I scraped it and it's filling in again. So it wasn't quite dry enough, but that's okay. We're in a good place. And so now, while the mask is still there, this is the time to put the shadows in. Um, and I'm going to use some of this. I'll show you. We're going to use the same uh, colors, which is Prussian blue and alizarin crimson, and a little black. And black in this case is going to be Payne's gray because it has blue in it. So good. All right. Let's see. Now I'm going to use a couple of different where brushes here. Here it is. This is, I'm sure you all have put something right down in front of you and you go, where is it? Like, where's my glasses on my head? All right. So, boy, this is so tight that I can hardly see the mask. But so I'm gonna, I'll look carefully. Um, okay. It has some black in here already, so I'm gonna mix a lot more than I need to get the shadow color. Because once you do it, it has to be right, and you can't go back and mix the shadow color again. It will never come out the same because it's not one color. It's couple, actually three. And you notice I have some of the texture going on here. Um, so this is a good time to go, to find out if it's correct or it needs to be a little lighter or what. That's a little bit dark. I'm going to add a little more blue to it. And a little water. And the reason for the water is I don't want it to be solid, like a big, you want to make it lighter, just add water. You don't add white. You guys know that, right? Okay, I think that's going to do it. So I'm going to just come over here and start putting shadows on, and I won't talk because this is a little bit crucial. So you could just watch. You know what I'm going to do, just for my own benefit, because it's so hard to see the mask, I'm going to just draw a little indication of where the shadow needs to be. Okay. Now, let's call it. Okay. any luck, I'll still be able to see some of the texture that I've already laid down. Okay. I'm just softening the shadow line slightly, ever so slightly. Okay. Oh, I forgot the nail. Get that shadow on the nail. Time to time to dry. I think it's going to be okay. Um, okay, Jim. Again. Um, while it's wet, I'm just going to come in here and just do a little enhancement like that. And it's like, oh, you see underneath the shadow a little bit of a trick. I think that's good. All right. Okay. You see how not using black really makes it believable. I think that's good. Let's start with this is easy to pull off because it's a painted mask. Ah, there we go. Okay, I'm going to start from the top here and just peel off very, very carefully. You don't want the paper coming up. You'll see a little leakage, but it's very forgiving because of the wood, you know. Oh, I can see a lot of leakage here. Oh, gosh. So, dude, you didn't put down. All right, let's see if we can fix this. Oh, I see. It's fixed. I didn't mess up. I thought I did. Ah, the peel. When the peel is appealing, it I think this is going to work. It's so thin, this masking tape, that it looked like it seeped, but it didn't seep. Oh, yeah, voila, worked. Now, why did I do that? Like I explained before, we're seeing, you want to get the wood grain. And now we're ready for the next step. Just let me clean up here a little bit. Um, yeah, this is just like being stuff just flying all over the place. Okay. Um, I also usually have two different water containers because we're going to use a completely new color here, and they're not going to mix well. And of course, that's going to be we're going to put the underpainting to the rust. So as you can see, it's if you look at the reference, it's not exactly the same, which it shouldn't be, but I think I got the shadows down and the wood grain is believable enough. So we're ready to put this in. Oh, you know what? I forgot to draw the little holes for the rivets here. I had a little circle template and now I don't have it. So let me just go in here and make it a little darker so I'll be able to see it. Okay, there's those two. And then we have one here, one here, and one here. These might disappear once I didn't even put in, I have to draw the latch, the whole business. Okay, give me a moment here when and that seems to go up like this. What I do is I fill in so I don't get confused about what's dark and what's light. So I'm going to put some tones in to the pencil to remind me when I go to paint it what to leave dark and what to leave light. Okay, good enough. All righty, let's see. Here it is. I love these little, this is a little 1/4 inch, but you see how long it is? So I'm going to mix this really intense, crazy color called, and I can't pronounce it, quinandro, thank you, quinandrothal gold, it's called. And it's really good for tinting um, and just getting kind of a very light underpainting because it's very transparent paint. Um, I'm going to add a little burnt sienna to it, warm it up. And I'm just going to go over the whole thing because it's just an underpainting. And putting it on rather light. And I'm just going right up to the edge. The good thing is that, that if you go over the edge, it's darker and you can't really notice it. But you don't want to go too much over and have it bleed. This is really important that I keep this white here. So I'm just going to carefully paint. There we go. Another thing I tell my students keep in mind is do the critical areas first. Like don't come in and then try to go in right from the critical and then does that make sense? Then you do your lines here. All right, very good. I'm making this nail a little bit browner, a little rustier. Wet on wet. I'm just putting in, some texture here randomly. Sometimes in areas like I didn't keep that light enough, for the highlight. So I'm compensate for it later by darkening things around it, and then it'll pop out. There's a little weirdness here. And let's just do the lock. These brushes are great because you see how I can do a nice fill in, very broad, and I don't have to change brushes, and I can go in very fine and make fine lines. Using the same brush, the same amount of paint, you don't have to change anything. That's why I like them. I'm very much a flat brush guy. All right. So that's really still wet, um, which means we probably can come in here and put some texture in it. Yeah, it's so wet, it's just filling in. So let's let this dry. Actually, make it dry. Okay. So far we've been doing, a lot of mostly broad stroke. We finished up the wood, got the shadows down. The textures, I'm fine with it. And now the details, which is getting all this texture and stuff. So I'm going to dry it one more time. So I have a trick to show you. So I'm 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 really kind of going crazy with this because now here's a trick that I discovered by accident, and I'm going to turn you on to it. So I'm using some liquid mask here. Just happens to be the Richardson Shiva series mask. I like it because this stuff dries up like crazy. It's like instant, but it has a little extra seal. It's not just the cap, and so I find that it lasts longer. So I'm going to apply this with my finger, and you'll see why. I don't really have to brush it on. I'm just going to put mask on like this. Kind of willy-nilly, just kind of. All right. What the heck? Let's put some on this too. And then cap it. We're done. Now this stuff really has to dry, because we're going to paint over it. You don't want to mix the rubber into paint. Um, so get the trusty hair dryer out again. top of what you've already painted, because it'll take paint up, obviously, some of it. But in this case, who cares? Because it's just going to be a rusty object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off some of it, but not all the way. And I'm lightly peeling some of this mask off. I don't know if you could see that. See, there's this kind of texture showing up. And that's going to enhance, this is going to make it very believable that it's rust. You know, instead of having to paint each and every little rusty thing, we just do this and then we come back and enhance it, you know, what we got. See if this works. Okay. So now I'm going to put, you know, rust color. The best rust color is, why do I blank out when I'm talking about my color? Is uh, burnt sienna, the burnt umber, burnt sienna. We're going to use a little bit of each, but mostly sienna. And I'm going to test it out. It's very good. And get some on here. Oops, I didn't want it here, so I'll just erase that. And I'm going to be careful to come over on this side and a little bit over here. Okay. Everybody see that? This is time to get rid of a little bit of the white specks here. All right, that's good. Now we're going to dry it again. And again, it has to be very dry because when I start peeling this mask off, what happens is that it gets underneath the mask and it doesn't dry. So you're wiping with your finger and it smears the paint.
Didn't you forget under the padlock? Same color.
I'm sorry, did someone say something?
Yeah, I was wondering if color is missing under the padlock.
You have a question?
Yeah, can you repeat again?
Yeah, I can't hear it. So.
Yeah. So can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah, I was wondering if you forgot to paint the darker color under the padlock on the tab.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, well, difficult.
Was there a question?
yeah, he was asking a question. I didn't quite understand it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't hear.
Yes, there's color in the background. What color was in the background?
Oh, the background here? That was
No. Sorry, can you hear me?
cer-
I was not asking
cerulean
that.
blue, cerulean, oh,
So my question was, you
I-
have that tab that is
my ears are
you,
bad.
you cannot hear anything?
I didn't hear him.
Oh no, can you hear me better?
Do you want to know the background color? Cerulean blue and a little bit of green gold, very little. Gives you a nice underpainting. Okay, let me go hit this again with the hair dryer. Okay, we're back. I like, whoops, I'm getting tangled up here. Hold on a second. Yeah, yikes. All right, there we go. Yes, I believe that's dry. So I had a painting I was doing, and I put the mask on. The mess is tree out. The sky, everything's fine. Put it away. Lost it. I don't know what happened to the damn thing. And then 5 years later, it shows up, and the mask. I'm like, oh my God, I had it going. That was pretty good. What happened? I couldn't peel the mask off. It embedded right into the paper itself, but it dries a very light yellow, like a very pale yellow. And it had, as always, some of it came off. So you're trying to get it off. And I'm like, that's exactly the color I need. So I just touched it up and it worked great. Okay, so let's get the rubber off here. I'm going to use my fingers. That looks like rust to me. I love this technique because you don't know what you're going to get. Look at that. It's a lot rustier than the reference, which is good. You try to make your painting better than the photograph. But sometimes the photo is just so good that it's like, well, what's the point? You know? So, sure I get it all off. Not bad. Okay, so now everybody, love the details. Students, oh, they love the details. This is the time for the tiny little details. Putting the screws in here and getting the rest of let's give this dimension more. And what I'm going to use is, this number 6 round. And it's great because it's a monochrome almost. I'm going to use some of the same colors I already have on the palette and just go little by little. And as you can see, I notice here, it's really, you have to pay attention to where these shadows go. This is shadow and a shadow here. So I'm going to put those on first and lightly so that I go back over them again. But I want that contrast to be there between this, you know what I mean? It's really important that we get this right. All right, that looks good. So now I'm just going to use a wet brush and soften it. And you soften the edge and it, doggone it, looks like metal. And I'm going to worry about whether it's rusty enough later. And that's good enough. Okay, let's just do this side. A little weird mask here. Okay. Watercolor is an additive painting process. So I'm not putting the, it doesn't have to be the final, dark shade yet. I like how, we can soften a line up. Principles of watercolor painting: wet paper, wet paint, nice soft edge. Dry paper, wet paint, hard edge. That's it. You master those two things and you can pretty much do anything you want. I had a weird thing with a mask over here, but I'll fix that later. Let's just get the dimensions of this. So you notice, doggone it, the mask didn't come out. I didn't quite get that. So the final thing before it's signed, you got to use a little opaque paint and just touch up little parts that you need to make it look good. You know what I mean? Okay, so we got that. Oh, let me finish this. I'm darkening this up with a little, what's that color? Raw umber. I think that's what it is, raw umber. You notice I'm not putting all the little tiny lines in here. It's just very tedious. I don't think we'll even do that. Maybe, you know, when I get home or something. It's just it's not necessary. You get what the object is, and you can put those in later. I want to go for the texture right now, so that's why I'm splashing a little water on here. Okay, here's where it's tricky because the light is, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm just going to paint it the way I see it here. And hopefully it'll be right. Like a shadow that's going down here. This is the part that drives me crazy. It's very tedious, and I'm like, I just want to put the paint on. But you have to get it right, or else it'll look kind of weird, especially if it's metal. You know, metal has to be in the right proportion and all that. That, you know, just it's an area, so I'll probably make it darker later, but right now I just want to get it going here. There we go. Too early. Okay, so the only detail is this hinge, and we'll paint that in. I lost my shadow color, which is fine, but what I need to do is just kind of draw it so I don't mess it up. I know where I'm going, and I'm going to put this shadow in here, right there, like that. Okay, so I'll just mix up a little more of that shadow color, which is Prussian blue and Lazing crimson and a little Payne's gray. Let's test that out. That looks good. You know, I'm going to warm this one up since it's over rust, and I'm going to add a little burnt umber, just a little more. All right. Okay, I hope this turns out. Yikes. It's too dark. Yeah. See the difference the shadows make when you put them on? It like, you know, just it reveals what you're doing. And let me just make this a little more three-dimensional. And I could go back over it and enhance it, but right now I wanted to just get get that going, and I'm going to enhance this here too. Whoops. Okay. Let's put a little dimensionality to the nail. I can fix that up later. So far, we're almost done. How are we doing? 2:39, all right. Any questions from the television audience?
None from Zoom.
No, okay. I'm gonna hit the dryer one more time. Now I can see where you really need to make this stronger here. And let's put these little. All righty, the only thing left is really just some details. Um, I'm not fond of the nail hole here. It needs something. So you know what I'm going to do? I hope this will work. I'm going to wet it.
We do have,
And scrape a little highlight.
Rafael?
Yeah.
There is one comment
Uh-huh.
on the chat. And it is, I didn't mask anything, but I'm enjoying the class and I'm liking how my painting is coming along. I learned some new techniques for sure. So it sounds like somebody's been painting along as you.
Oh, really? That's great. I'd love to see it. Ah. You know, scraping works until you start picking the paper up. It's like, ah. But that can work too, you know? Like there's some highlights here. You know, I think it's for the most part, it's kind of done. Um, you know, I could go back in with, you know, opaque paint and touch up some of the things like right over here to, you know, the stuff like that. It's just incidental, just little tiny things. The screw heads. Oh, I didn't get those. Picky, picky, picky. All right, let me. You know that I lost the drawing to them completely. Yeah, so I thought I would. So if I'm going to put one in, if that's really important to you guys, I'm going to do one because yeah, I could be.
At the beginning, you were gonna put them in.
Huh?
You told us at the beginning you were gonna put them in.
Okay. Okay, will do. Let me get my little smallest brush I can. Here it is. And first I got to draw it. And so, all right, let's get this one on top. This is easy. Make sure it's dry. I'm still peeling some of the things off. Okay. Here's, you probably can't see that, but I can. So I'm going to drop the shadow of the nail, and that will indicate that there's a nail there. Is it a nail? Whatever, screw or whatever. So, and it has to be in the same direction as this shadow. So here it goes. See, I didn't do anything in the middle. I just put the shadow in, and I'm going to soften it just a little bit with some. There's one. Okay. Here's the other. Now put all three of them in there. Okay, this one I'm going to do a little different. Almost looks like a hole for it. And in this one, it's the same thing. I need to put the shadow in. All right. So there's a little I'm just adding a contrast. I'm not going to put in, every little detail, but thank you for pointing out that I needed to put these screws in. This one, I'm going to show you, not all paper works the same this way, but I'm going to take a little blunt brush here, and I'm going to try to lift some of the color out of this nail right here. And what you got to just go over it and over it and over it. There's a little bit and a little bit more. There we go. And voila, we have the head of the nail looking pretty good. So I'll let it dry and then I'll put the that's a great. It's rusty, so you can't say, "Oh, that's not right." I'm really happy with the rust on this one. I'm going to put up the one I did last night uh, to show you that this ended up really clean. This is the way it should be. And when I took the mask off this, it took some of the paper. I probably can't see it, but some of the paper came off with the mask. And that happens sometimes when you're in a hurry, which I was last night because I put a deadline. But so now I'm much more relaxed, and I think I came out with a better painting. It's nothing like doing it twice. Again, you see how the curve is not right in here? So if I just take a little white and Naples yellow, some opaque paint that I'm using. And, I can touch it up, so you wouldn't even see that. Look at that. That's good. So now, it looks a little more believable. And while I'm at it, I love that highlight that came in here. Let me put that in there. See, that's better. And, that's it. I can, well, I don't want to mess up with any opaque paint. I'll probably put some here. By the way, if you're going to do this, one of the things that I found out is that when you put, I'm still using watercolor. This is no gouache, but sometimes when you put some gouache on, your watercolor, it dries darker. watercolor dries 10, 15% lighter than when you apply it. Gouache dries darker. Go figure. And it works. But if it's pure white, it won't. It'll be fine. But I am going to stop now because it's 10 minutes before 3, and I'll take questions from the gallery. Yeah. Yes, of course.
Which white do you use?
Oh, if you're going to use white, for touching up or anything, I recommend gouache, titanium, or the one I really like the best. I have to go digging for it, but it's here's some titanium white. Whatever you buy, if it's watercolor or gouache, it's always it says opaque white. But if you really want opaque white, my favorite is the permanent white, and it's by Holbein. And you see, I've got tons of it, and that's really good stuff. And yeah, you could mix. It's only one color, but you can mix it in. Have you ever done a sky where it's like you use that cerulean blue, but it ends up streaky, and it's like it just doesn't work. But it's a plain sky. It's just flat. Use this Holbein gouache, mix it with some cerulean blue watercolor, and test it out till it dries, and you'll have the right color, and you won't get the streaks. It'll remove the streaks. It's great. Often there's some paintings that this would be it's almost, it's like, then I take it back and I start putting gouache on it and it's like, oh, this works. I'm from an illustrator background, so whatever it takes to get the image, I'm not a purist. If that's going to work, then, just do it. I'm going to add one other little trick here that is not on the, in here. The nails are rusty, right? So, and this will be the last thing I do. So I'm going to add some water down here, right? And I'm going to just take pure burnt sienna and use it drips down, and it looks like the rust is coming, nail from the rust. Okay, I think that's the last little thing. I think that wraps it up. There's little minor things I could touch up. I'll post this on my website. Thank you for looking, watching, and being patient with me. Again, coming up next month is painting, which I love this subject matter, winter landscapes and watercolor. Why do I like it so much? Because you don't paint that. You get to use a lot of snow. You just leave it alone. It's white, anyway. And then painting rustic still life like we're doing. And this is in February at the University Art. 14th and 15th, Saturday and Sunday for the winter painting. And then the rustic still life is next week, 21st and 22nd. You can register on my website. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Got a thank you from online too.